to do that slate.
I'm very impressed.
You're very.
I was an editor for 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't make it. I made it to assistant editor, but I moved to LA to be an editor. So I worked on some pretty cool. Like I worked on America's Funniest Home Videos. I worked on Hell's Kitchen.
Well, now who was hosting America's Funniest
Tom
Home Videos?
Bergeron. He did it for 10 years.
Oh, that's
Bob
right.
Saget did it for 10 years. There was a weird 2 years where there were like a couple doing it, but now Alfonso Ribeiro, the guy from Fresh Prince, is doing it.
Oh yeah, Carlton.
Yeah.
As soon as you went like this, I was like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
Carlton.
that show's been going on for like 30 years. It's pretty insane.
Yeah, but it's one of those shows that it's just truly like good, wholesome, clean comedy where it's like
I still laugh. I still laugh and watch it.
Like anybody who watches it is just like, yeah, this is just silly and funny.
Yeah, and especially with YouTube, you think it would get like kind of like pushed to the side, but it's whenever you look at it's on Sunday nights. It's like they would always post the ratings. It was always like number 1 or number 2 in its time slot.
Really?
Yeah, people still love it. It's in like 80 countries. It's the guy who runs the show, Vin DeBona. Is just he's one of the nicest guys, but he also has like an entire floor of the parking garage just for his cars. Like he has tons of. He's made billions probably.
Do they still have the same theme song? America, America.
You know what? I think so, but I'm not. There, it was great. It was cool working there because you got to see like the different parts, and the guy who would come in to do the voiceover. His name is Jesse.
Yeah.
But he looks like a rock star. He comes in with the hair. He has like the jacket, and he would come in a couple times a year and do like I'm pretty sure it was him doing that song. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome. I wonder if it's the same guy who does like the Chevy like a rock. This is like the same guy that like covers all of it.
That would be like that's.
I think that's Bob Seger actually. He does that.
Okay.
Probably.
Do you have like a dream job in Hollywood? Because like the voiceover would probably be. It seems like the dream gig.
I mean, it sounds great. I bet you could easily do like animation. You have a very like good voice for animation and stuff like that.
That'd be. You know what? It's weird because I moved here, like I was said, to do post stuff. I never wanted to be in front of the camera or do anything like that. And then like I had Troy Conrad take my headshots, and I haven't really done I haven't done like commercial stuff with it, but people will tell me I need to start, and it's just kind of weird for me. It's like I always wanted to be behind the camera. Now people are like, oh, you have a good look for commercials, or you should do like it's just weird.
Yeah, you could audition for a lot of stuff.
Oh, that's so crazy.
Yeah.
Have you done any commercials?
Yeah, I did. Actually, I booked a commercial. This was years ago. I haven't booked in a while. It's kind of hard to. Whenever you go on the road for stand-up, because then you have to tell them, like, I'm going out of town, and then they're like, okay, he's out of town. And then whenever you're back in town, you have to remind them, like, hey, I'm here for, like, a week. Can you find me in auditions in a week? It's like, it's a little bit difficult. But, I booked a commercial back in 2011 that was, like, a national Chevy Volt commercial.
Oh, snap, really?
Yeah, and that's actually what allowed me to quit my day job at Starbucks and focus fully on comedy.
That's so, and I'm not trying to like kiss your ass or anything, but like I just started comedy 9 months ago, and you're one of the people who, at least for me, is like, I don't know how to say it, but like I look at you and I see what you're posting and I see what you're doing. I'm like, shit, doing and one open mic a night just isn't enough. Like I see you're on like 3 different shows: Kill Tony, the goddamn Comedy Jam, and the Roast Battle. So that's 3 nights out of the week that you're busy. You're always doing sets, and you have like Regan and Watkins, and it's just like, Jesus, I need to keep going, and it's a fucking process.
It's a process. Yeah, I mean, whenever people say it's a grind, it really is.
But not everyone does it like you. Like it's pretty crazy.
I also not a lot of people like. I'm a little bit crazy in the fact that I'm doing a lot of different kinds of comedy. It's not just stand up. So that adds a lot more workload to the plate. Like if I was just doing stand up, like, it would be this amount of sets. But since I am like, trying to equally make Reagan and Watkins like a bigger thing, like that's its own time and investment. And I'm trying to equally, spread myself without spreading myself too thin at the same time and get up as much as I can. So it's sometimes difficult, but I mean, I wouldn't have it any other way.
And I mean, I don't know how I'm like, there might be some young comics watching, but like whenever like I broke up with my ex right before I started or right as I started.
Yeah.
And then even girls who I start seeing now off and on, like I have to tell them like, oh, I can see you at like 10:30, 11 after my open mics.
Yeah.
And they're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. What do you mean?
And you have like, you're married. Like that must be like, you must have found like the coolest girl ever to be cool with you being out every night.
Yeah, she's pretty amazing. She's very understanding. It was one of those things where whenever we started dating, it was one of the first conversations that we had. Like, hey, I'm like nights is gonna be pretty crazy, but like we'll carve out times of the day. And luckily, her schedule's like it changes a little bit during the day, so we're able to have like lunch or dinner together before I go out. And you have to just kind of plan it differently because if you get busy at night, sometimes you're out for the whole night. And then it's like, all right, I'll see you tomorrow.
Right, maybe. And it's like, because like Joey would make fun of me. He's like, oh, are you going to see that girl tonight? I'm like, I think I'm going to push it to another night. He's like, why? I'm like, because I'd rather go and do an open mic.
Yeah,
like especially when you have, because I've gotten pretty lucky. I'm doing shows that most 9-month comics don't get to do. So I want to make sure I do a good job.
Sure.
So I'm trying to go out and do as many open mics as I can. And it's just, to me, even like if I thought like, a few years ago, like, would I rather have sex or would I rather go and drive an hour to do 5 minutes of terrible comedy? I'd be like, oh yeah, I would rather have sex. But
of course.
I'm like, no, now I can't wait to go do an open mic.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
Did the breakup happen, do you think, because of the schedule? Is that like why it didn't work out?
No.
Is this your first girlfriend that you've had since starting stand up? Like, was that like a new thing where you kind of had to like try to figure out
we were
the scheduling?
Almost 5 years in. And I started about, we broke up at 4.5 years, and we broke up like a month or two after I started. So I mean it kind of just, there were other issues. It was one of those things where I'm in LA. I just started this. I was having a lot of fun, and I was like, oh, I don't really want to get married and be home by, like, be in bed by 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
That wasn't really what I was into.
And was that an expectation from her that she was kind of thinking?
She had a regular job. She's a lawyer, right. So she's asleep by 10:30. And then, like, even if I would stay home, even before comedy, and she was asleep at 10:30. I'm not asleep at 10. Like, I would just be sitting there in my quiet apartment, like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
So it definitely helped, though, the comedy thing, because I made tons of friends. Like, that's when I started working with Joey like 7 years ago, and then I met Steve Simone, who you've had on.
You know what's funny is I actually first heard you through Steve Simone.
Oh, okay, yeah, he's great. Yeah, that's
because I listened to his podcast, and that was like my first time like I heard your voice was through Simone, actually.
Yeah, on Good Times.
On Good Times, yeah.
And he would talk about moving out here, and everyone you talk to talks about the store. Sort of like it's like almost like a camp, even though even though you go there every night, but it's like, I don't know. I'm kind of a nerdy, shy guy, and so I'm not great at just, like, I couldn't go in a Starbucks and make a friend. But when you go to the same open mics for months and you start seeing people, you make friends, and it's tough going through a breakup, but it's been a lot of fun. Like, it's been cool to meet people and go do, like, I did a show at not a rehab, what is it? A detox center.
Oh yeah.
And the guy called. He's like, we gotta finish up by 9 o'clock because their meds start kicking in and they start falling asleep, and they would just sort of pass out. But it's
the ultimate closer, literally just people like passing out in front of you.
It's been kind of cool to just see the different, like, things that happen to you, because they were falling asleep. They had to go in and take their medicine. I had a guy like last week. I haven't really been heckled. I have, like, most of the people who know me are really nice, but this one guy got positively heckled. He came into the room at the Ice House as I was on stage in the middle of a joke and just went, "Hey Lee, I'm real excited to see you, man." I'm like in the middle, and I'm so, like, I didn't want to, like, trash him because he was just a little too excited.
Yeah.
But it was like I didn't really know how to handle it, and so now, like, every time something happens, I'm like, okay, that's something I can handle now.
That's the best thing about going up, like, every night is, like, it's like a new notch in your belt every single time, like, something like that happens. You're like, okay, I know how to handle this the next time something weird like this happens. And it's literally like this infinite checklist of items until you become like this stand-up master, like the guys who are like 20, 30 years in that are like, I've seen everything. I just know how to.
Right. And especially you doing Kill Tony, you must see just because I actually want to I don't want to out the guy, so I'll tell you later, but one of the episodes, someone who came or used to come to the open mic place that I go to went up and like they were booing him. They just didn't like him at all. And I haven't seen him do stand-up since. Ooh. So it's
yeah,
like the things you run into. It's just like, geez, you gotta keep going, or it's weird how like an audience will just turn on you that quickly.
Yeah, it's sometimes it's a little bit brutal. Whenever it gets that brutal, I'm like, I don't know, that's not my comfort level. That's
right.
I'm more of like give him another shot kind of thing. But yeah, we've seen like a lot of, I mean, craziness on Kill Tony.
How many comics have you had come through there, do you think? Must be hundreds by now.
I mean, it has to be. Like, I've been doing the show over the last couple years or so. Probably, 2.5 years, probably, around there was whenever I joined the show. Maybe a little bit longer, maybe around there. And in that point, there's had to have been hundreds. And, like, Tony's been doing the show over 5 years now. So he's
500 episodes.
He's seen thousands. He's literally seen thousands of comedians come through that podcast.
That's tough, especially with open micers. Some of them are great,
and some of them, like Preacher Lawson, he guy who's a finalist in America's Got Talent last year.
He started there?
Yeah, well, I mean, he was a stand-up, and he was going to Kill Tony regularly, and he got up there multiple times. And
that's nice.
And you look back at the footage, and Tony's like, hey, man, you're great. You're going to be doing, like, you got star quality. And then, like, literally fast forward, like, 3 months later, he's a finalist on America's Got Talent.
That's wild. And like, I think I met him once, but like Malcolm Hatchett, I heard
he's
just
been
blew
blown
up from it.
Oh, dude. Yeah, he got signed to a big agency and yeah, doing the thing. Yeah, he's great.
That's pretty cool. It's I feel lucky because I'm kind of in two worlds. Like, I have access to like really high name, big level comics that like.
Right. So for maybe some listeners or viewers, if you don't know Lee, you are the co-host of The Church of What's Happening Now with Joey Diaz. So what we were talking about is you're 9 months into stand-up comedy.
Right.
And kind of had like a little bit of a different path. And it's interesting kind of that's why I'm loving talking about all this stuff with you right now, because it's such a different approach and like the way you got into it rather than a lot of comics who are just like, yeah, I'm just going to, start like you have the relationships and a lot of the comics, but in a different sense. And now you're like, well, I'm doing this now too.
Right. Well, I never thought I wanted to do it. I was a fan. Like, I remember obviously it's not that popular now, but when I was 10 or something, I remember at the mall buying the VHS copy of Bill Cosby himself.
Yeah.
The one where he does the dentist bit. And my lips on the floor, and my dad and I would drive, and my lips on the floor, and just it would kill us. And I moved out here, and that's how I met Joey, because I wrote him a message on Facebook, and I just said, I want to work with comedians, but I don't want to come off as creepy, and because I had no interest in being a comedian, I didn't think I wanted to do that at all. And people would ask me, I even like 2 years ago, like. Dice Clay came on the podcast, and as soon as it turned off, he's like, have you tried stand-up? And I was like, no, I'm not. I would never try stand-up. He's like, maybe you should try it. And I just, the fourth wall of the open mic place is literally 3 minutes from my house.
Yeah.
It's a insurance office that was converted into a little open mic place, so there's no, like, if you, even for me, like, going to, like, places like the Ha Ha or Flappers it seems like really intense. Like, it's not, like, I know for like when you get a couple years in, you're like, oh, it's just another place to do comedy. But for someone who hadn't started yet, I was like, this is a real comedy club. I don't want to go there and bomb. But I feel kind of like I audited comedy for 7 years, because I would go to shows with Joey a lot. I was always going to shows, always watching specials, and I feel like I had a little bit of a step up. Like, I definitely have a step up being asked. Like, Sam Tripoli's been great to me at the Sycamore Tavern, or the Dojo of Comedy, I guess is what it's called. And I've gotten to do some great shows like that, but I've also just gotten to hear, like, that's why I really enjoy podcasts, is like they're very even when they're not meant to be, like they're kind of inspiring. You hear these people's stories and what they go through and how they attack things. You're like, oh, I could do this. And
well, yeah, you're just when you're working with Joey and you're having all those guests and great comics come through there. You're literally like a sponge that's just soaking up knowledge and soaking up experiences, and at the same time, probably. The more the Joey starts bantering with you, the more as the show goes on and stuff like that, the more he's comfortable with you, the better your comedic timing starts to improve. And you know what I mean? And the more you get a little bit more comfortable with the idea of like, hey, maybe, people are telling me I should try stand-up. Maybe I should do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of people who do podcasts because what I consider my role on the show is like, I don't jump in a lot. I never try to outshine or talk over anybody, but it definitely taught me when you say even when you say timing, it's like less is more. Like sometimes being like, and that's one of the things I'm still trying to get better at. But sometimes I'll see newer comics like 1 month in and they are like speeding through material.
Yeah,
and it's taught me, oh, okay, you can embrace this. Like that's something I hear a lot is embrace the silence or use the silence for you. And it's just been cool to kind of, because not all of the tricks that Joey does is going to work for me because Joey has a very different style than I do, and but just taking a little bit from every person and being like, oh, I wonder if this will work for me.
Yeah.
And it's been, I mean, how long have you been doing it?
I've been doing stand-up over 8 years, and I started off doing improv like 11 years ago.
Wow. Yeah. It's been a lot of, I'm only 9 months, and that's actually one of the things that sort of kind of made me pause when I was thinking about starting was I don't want to spend 10 years like struggling. Like,
right.
That's what I hear. And now that I'm doing it, I don't know if I'm going to end up being a regular at the store. Probably not. I mean, who knows? I would love to be. It would be great. I've done 2 shows there, one in the belly room and one in the original room. And it's amazing to go up there. Like I freaked out, but it's I'm trying to get better at not looking like 10 years ahead, just enjoying it for right now.
Living in the moment is super important, and just like day by day, and just little gains and successes, like getting up on shows, or like whenever you nail like a new bit that you're working on or something. I mean, going off of the timing thing, the last few years, just being a part of Kill Tony, that's such a huge ensemble show. And there's moments on stage where there's literally like on Monday, we literally had 9 people on stage at once. We had Tony Redband, the Sklar brothers, Daniel Van Kirk, myself, Joel Jimenez, Chris Dillon, and then the comedian that was drawn out of the bucket. So 9
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people all trying to figure out when to jump in. And really, it's like, you got to choose your moments. Like, you got to, and still, like, you'll throw out some stuff where it's like, oh, man, you know what I mean? Like, you're like, oh, I missed my opportunity. Or there will be a lot of times when Tony will go to me like, Jeremiah, you had something? And I'm like, moments passed. Continue kind of thing. Because it's like the joke is gone. Like, it moves. It's such a quick moving machine, you know?
Well, do you, because I haven't done any improv. Do you feel like improv helped because you kind of really, with stand-up, not all of it, but a lot of it is pre-planned, at least the idea of it. Improv, which I went to go see in Boston, is literally like, right now, here's an idea, go with it.
Yeah.
That must have helped.
That's helped me tremendously. Like, anybody who's seen my stand-up or just me as a performer, like, improv is like a huge part of my toolbox. Like, I rely on it a lot, like, especially if a set's not go. The best thing about like stand-up, if you've taken improv in the past or if you're familiar with it, if your material for whatever reason is not working on a given night, it's the best accessory to have. Like, okay, let's be present. Let's figure out what's going on with this room right now, and let's dissect the problem. Like, why am I not doing well?
Right.
You know?
I mean, and who knows? I mean, I'm sure every comic would say yes to this question, but every time I see you, I'm like, he has to go on SNL at some point. Like that, like, is that just like the end? Well, not the end goal, but is that like one of the bigger goals for you?
Yeah, it's like a dream job for sure.
Yeah, I know, Lauren, you're probably watching, but you gotta get this guy. Like, have you sent in a packet to them yet, or?
Yeah, what's funny is where I'm at with it right now. They like my stuff. They've seen it, but they've told my manager multiple times now that I look too similar to Kyle Mooney.
Oh, crazy!
So we have, I guess, similar enough of a look where they're like, we don't want to see him right now. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll just keep chipping away at it, keep getting better, keep putting on those weights.
Right. Yeah. So
running.
When it comes,
so when
you're
it
ready.
comes, yeah, I'm ready. So
that's crazy. Yeah, and that's one of the things that's because every other job, even editing, when I came out here, there's a path. You go from PA to assistant editor, then junior editor. There's like this entertainment comedy thing. It's very weird how you're like, oh, I just look too much like this guy, or
happens a lot on that show. I've had some
wild.
other buddies who they look too similar to current cast members, and because that everybody has like a slot that they need to fill on the show. It's like if you look too similar to somebody else, it's like, we can't see you right now. Like we got that. We have that slot. We have that position filled. We have our starting 5 or whatever. It's like, okay, well, I'll be on the bench. I'm in the wings.
Right. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's
Did you have any crazy on-set stories whenever you used to edit or anything like that, like in the editing bay, like anything weird that would go on?
Editing was always offset. It did show me just the kind of like the politics of LA. Like I remember I was a huge Scrubs fan growing up. Well, not growing up, but when the show was on.
From TLC. No, I don't want no Scrubs. Scrubs, I gotta can't get no love from me. Hanging on a passenger side of the best friend's
I don't know the words, but I was trying to dance. I almost broke your entire set.
Just the whole thing just comes down.
Sets in fire.
There's just a dude taking a dump on the other side of the apartment complex wall. I'm like, what's going on?
Oh my god! But no, the Dr. Cox from like the TV show Scrubs came in, and my boss, like before he came in, was like, "Don't look him in the eyes," and of course he didn't care. But it like that was probably the weirdest ones. Like sometimes you just have bosses who take things a little too seriously.
Was he serious about that?
No, he didn't say it. He probably had no idea that she told us all that. But it's just like sometimes like when you have quote unquote stars coming in, people get really weird about it. So that was one of the weird ones.
I feel like a lot of times it's those people who are trying to be the gatekeepers. They're the weirder person than the actual person. They're like, because a lot of times like the people who are successful, from what I've experienced interacting, like they're usually pretty cool. Like to an extent, like if you like not like the eye thing. Big old fly in here.
Don't tell Joe. Joey says I bring flies everywhere, which is not true. He says I eat hummus and I bring flies in.
How did that fly get here? That's crazy.
God damn it, Joey. I think Joey's sticking flies in my car.
He sent flies with you to this podcast?
That son of a bitch. But, yeah,
there hasn't been a fly around these parts in years.
And I just have a team of flies wherever I go.
Yeah.
God damn it, I took a shower and everything. But I mean, I've run into some people who aren't cool, especially like it's been a kind of a bummer to meet them.
Oh yeah,
but
some podcast guests or
not so much podcast,
or just out in public kind of thing.
Out in public, occasionally on the podcast where they come in, and it's not like they're outrightly mean, but it's like they're there to see Joey.
They're
so
more
like,
dismissive, kind of. They're just like the kind of person who looks over you or around you, like, oh, that's great. Yeah, sure.
Right.
That kind of thing.
That's exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like the
like not making eye contact kind of thing where you're like, dude, I'm freaking right here too. I'm a part of this show.
Oh, and it's not even on the show. Like it has happened on the show, but like someone who came in who is super cool the other like a month or so ago was Henry Rollins.
Mm-hmm.
Came in and like would talk to me for 5 or 10 minutes, like just off the show about something, and it was just there are a lot of cool people in this town. But I guess something else that I learned is because I'm not much of a drinker. That was never really my thing.
Yeah,
and
same here.
But it's crazy. Like even in the post-production side, you go in and they're drinking wine out of coffee cups at 9 a.m. They're snorting Adderall. Like it's something that like like I could see how people could go down the wrong path. And I've done probably more edibles than anyone, but it for me it feels a little bit different doing pills and drinking as opposed to doing some pot. But I mean, you're at clubs every night. Do you? I don't think I've ever seen you drink at all.
Yeah, I don't drink.
Oh yeah. Is it tough for you, or do people bug you about it?
It was one of those things. Whenever starting out, or whenever you don't know people very well, they push way harder.
Right.
But like once you get to know people, they start respecting your choices, kind of. Does that make sense? Like, and especially as you get older, it's like I was around the club scene like right whenever I was like 21. So like, of course, it's gonna be way more intense. Like, oh, you're 21, you just turned 21. Like, well, you got to drink, all that stuff. But as you get farther into your career, people are just like, oh, he doesn't drink. Like, kind of respect his life choices, kind of thing.
So you don't drink at all?
I don't drink at all. No.
That's great. It never really appealed to me. I have fun occasionally. I'll get drunk maybe once a year now.
Yeah.
But it takes so long, and it's just you're so out of control. Like sometimes with drinking,
right?
And like, was there a reason why you don't drink, or you just never really
it didn't appeal to
you?
me, but I mean, I've got like some family issues and stuff with it too that I'm like, it's not worth not worth me going down that path.
My mom is very Jewish and very old school, and she'll call me. And she really likes that I'm doing this, but like once a month, she'll be like, Jerry Seinfeld says that you shouldn't drink. He says he's seen a lot of comics go down the bad path with drinking, so please don't drink. And I'm like, I really don't, but it's funny. Like, what do your parents think about all this stuff?
I don't. It's kind of crazy. Like somebody's actually calling in the show right now. It looks like your mother's actually calling in to the show right now. Hello, is this Lee's mom that's calling in?
Hi, is this Jeremiah?
Yeah, it is Jeremiah.
Oh, my son has told me so much about you. You sound like such a nice boy.
Oh, thank you. You sound like a very nice woman yourself.
Well, thank you for if Lee ever invited me out to LA, I'd love to take you out for lunch. Or...
That sounded very passive aggressive by you saying if he ever invites you out to LA. Is that something that you're a little bit upset about, that he hasn't invited you out here recently?
Well, I'm his mother, and I see him like once or twice a year. I feel like I don't know. I should see him maybe once a month, or just take him out for Shabbat dinner or something.
Oh, you know what? I've been to a few Shabbat dinners. I have some Jewish friends out here in Los Angeles, and they're a good time.
Oh, what do they make? I make a great brisket. I make great latkes. I would love to show you.
You're cutting out a little bit. Get up on that phone receiver a little bit, Miss Syatt.
Yes, it is, Miss. I'm sorry about that. I know. I'm cleaning the house. I'm doing a lot of things right now.
Okay, yeah. So Lee, when is the next time you're gonna see your mom? She's kind of inviting herself out to Los Angeles.
Oh, I know. She would move in if she could. I'm excited. Next week I'm going back, and it is the biggest show I've ever done. So I'm from Boston, and Joey's going back to do the Wilbur Theater.
Oh man!
And that was the theater for me as a kid, going to see stuff. So I'm gonna get to go on stage, and he's doing 2 shows. I think I'm doing like 5-6 minutes, but she's gonna come to one of those, so she's really excited.
Dude, that's incredible. How proud of your son are you, Mrs. Syatt?
I'm so proud. I hope he doesn't swear on stage and embarrass me in front of my temple friends. But I hope he doesn't.
Your temple friends?
Yeah. I don't like when people swear or use dirty language. That's not really my thing.
Oh, it's not your jam. Oh.
No, I like Seinfeld, and I really like Tom Papa. I like his new show Baked. I sent Lee a text the other night at 11 p.m. that he should do a show in Boston, kind of like Tom Papa does, going around to bakeries.
Oh, well, maybe he'll consider it. That sounds like a fun show.
Yeah, he should just hit up Travel Channel, but he never does what I tell him to do. I told him to write a letter to Theo Epstein when he was 8, the general manager of the Red Sox, and if he had, he'd be working for the Red Sox right now, but he doesn't listen to me.
Wow. Oh, you know what's crazy? Lee, dude, this is wild. My mom is actually calling in right now.
That's crazy.
I think she actually wants to talk to you. Mama, are you there?
Is this Lee?
Hi, Mrs. Watkins. How you doing?
Hi, hello. You need to invite your mother out to LA.
I see her as much as I can. I do. How often do you come out to LA?
I mean, actually, now that you brought that up, I'm a little bit upset that Jeremiah hasn't invited me out to LA recently.
Mama, I'm sorry. Lee and I, we're doing our stand up thing. We're traveling, but Lee's going home soon, so he can talk to his mom there.
That's not good. That's not good enough. You call your mother every single day.
That is true, actually. I do call my mom every single day.
Oh, I talk to my mom probably 3 or 4 times, at least 5 times a week. Somewhere close to that.
Oh, that is the sweetest thing I've ever heard. You're actually doing better. Could I talk to your mother?
Hi, Mrs. Watkins.
You sound like a pleasant lady.
So do you. We should get some tea while our sons are out working.
I mean, yeah, maybe some tea, but also, we could go to a bar too or something.
Oh, if I have half a margarita, I'm getting a little tipsy. I'm throwing sugar packets around the bar.
We are going to party tonight, girlfriend.
Can I be in bed by 9 o'clock? Because that's kind of my bedtime.
We'll see. I'll be holding your hair by midnight.
I think we lost both of our moms. I don't know. I think our moms just became friends over the phone. I don't know.
Yeah, I think they're part. My mom doesn't drink at all. My mom, that's true. She literally had half a margarita once and was throwing sugar packets around a Mexican restaurant. She got hammered off half a margarita. She can't, I think that's where I get it from.
My mom tried to take a beer pitcher to go at a restaurant once by putting a napkin over it, like as a to-go cup. And they're like, you can't take that. She's like,
That's a great buddy comedy that you're with my mom. My mom watches like PBS and Downton Abbey and she just that's all she does.
Yeah, my mom watches Snapped and like that murder show, like of wives killing their husbands and stuff. She freaking loves that show. And every time I go back home to Kansas, like we always watch horror movies. Like I've watched all of the Saw movies with my mom.
Oh God.
Yeah.
That sounds like at least my mom doesn't like horror because I hate horror movies. So at least we're on the same level with that. But I can't do you I mean drink with your mom and all that stuff? I don't think I've ever I had like one beer with her. And
no, my sister. I walked back on our back patio in Kansas once, and my sister and my mom were shrooming on the back patio together. And my mom literally looked up to me and she's like, Bubby, you look like you're in a field of dandelions right now. Are you playing guitar? I was like, what? I just gotten off work at the car wash and that I was working at in Kansas. I was like, what are you talking about? And my sister's like, where's Sherman?
That is wild. I can't even. I'm a little bit jealous of I don't know. I don't feel like I'm not open with my mom, but she's just like the first time I wasn't even high, but she thought I was stoned and high school, and she came up to me and she's like, is this weird right now? Do things look crazy? And I'm like, no, I'm not.
I used to do that to my sister all the time. Whenever she was
high
really? Or whatever, I'd be like, hey, what's going on? How are you? Like making huge, ridiculous, clown faces, and she'd be crying, laughing. And
oh, that's hysterical. No, my mom and I have a very different relationship. We don't do any of that stuff.
Yeah, it's I didn't see my parents do anything until I was teens. It was very cookie cutter. I grew up at an early age whenever everything, there's no alcohol or any kind of drugs in the house, and then it kind of switched down the line.
My house had a few floors, and my dad would always be in the basement, and I remember smelling him smoke weed. But that was it. He drinks and he smokes. I've gotten him high with Joey, which has been pretty funny. Joey got him so high once. He's an old Jewish guy, and we drove up and met Joey at his old house, and he gave my dad a chocolate chip cookie, and he said, "Eat." He said, "Mr. Syatt, eat a bite." And my dad kind of just goes for stuff. I dropped him off at LAX. He took the whole cookie, fell asleep after security and almost missed his flight. He slept the entire plane ride home. He couldn't find his car in Florida at the airport, and then he got pulled over on Route 95, which is one of the busiest highways on the East Coast, doing 25 miles an hour. The next day, after a whole night of flying and all, he was still fucked up.
Wow.
So yeah, that's my dad. My dad will mess around with that stuff now. He likes the edibles and all that, but it's
Have you ever been high? Did you ever get high around your dad at an early age, and you got caught or anything like that?
No, I was a fucking dork. I I think I drank a couple times in high school. Though I definitely took edibles once in high school, but I didn't get caught. I was at the beach all day, and I literally sat like an inch outside of the umbrella, and I turned purple.
Yeah.
Because I was just too high to move. But I didn't really do any of that stuff in high school. Like that's another reason why I've really enjoyed comedy. I feel like I've like come out of my shell in like the last year, and like I get to be a little bit goofy and do all that. I was just a huge dork.
It's almost like reversed, like where you're almost like interrogating your dad if he's high whenever like he took that cookie. Like,
that I had to call the airline and like see if he was like if he made the flight because he wouldn't answer his phone, and like I found out later they had to like escort him onto the plane. It was fucking.
You're like, Dad, how much of that cookie did you take?
Not that much.
Dad, it sounds like you're on a cookie right now, Dad.
I don't know what you're talking about, Lee. I took just enough of the chocolate chip that Joey told me to take.
Dad, I feel like you're on like 2 cookies right now.
I don't even know what you're saying right now. I'm freaking out a little bit, okay? Maybe I shouldn't have taken that whole cookie.
No, Dad, I think you should go lay down for a minute. Like, what is the room doing? Is this room spinning right now?
I mean, I'm not even in a room right now. I'm somewhere outside of a room. I'm kind of floating somewhere. I feel like I'm in, like, the Upside Down from Stranger Things right now. Like, you don't even look like yourself. You look like a Demogorgon or something, brother.
Well, Dad, we're on the phone right now. I don't even know what you're looking at right now. This is, are you inside your house at least?
Wait, I'm in the airport, but I think, the TSA looks like a demon right now. I have no idea what's happening.
The TSA is not a demon, Dad. You gotta go through there.
I'm gonna go inside this tree real quick, okay? Because I'm freaking out, man.
Be careful, Dad.
Wait, if I drink milk, will it cure the high? Because, it'll bounce it out and soak it up.
It has to at least help. It can't hurt.
All right, I'll go get some milk out of this vending machine.
I don't think they have milk vending machines, Dad.
I don't know, man. There's a cow that's inside this vending machine right now. I think I gotta milk this cow out of the vending machine, then I'll be all set.
Oh, God, Dad, I'm gonna have to come bail you out again, aren't I?
Oh, probably. I'm in the Upside Down, area code 662594.
Oh, well, yeah, my dad gets... I once got my dad so fucked up that he forgot how to take a sip out of a Wendy's cup. Like, we went and got Wendy's after one of the podcasts. He just put the cup in his mouth and he's like, I don't know how to drink.
I don't know how to swallow. Will you pour it down my throat, please?
Dad, you just got like a normal straw. You just got to sip in.
I'll try, but it feels weird. Maybe I'll try a different orifice.
That might work for you, Dad. Different orifice.
Let's get into this next segment, fanning out.
Fanning out. Questions from fans.
Yeah, I reached out to people online, and they reached right on back to me. If you could ask Lee any question, what would it be? And I got some good ones for you. This is from our buddy Ryan Hill from Don
hey,
Carlos. Eat a burrito. If you could make any burrito, what would it be?
And first of all, if anyone's watching this and you're anywhere near La Jolla, I actually met Ryan because I don't even know if I was working with Joey yet. I sent Ari a DM because I think with Tony, they had done mushrooms or something, and he did a podcast and he talked about it. I was like, what is that burrito place? And I was going down to see Pete Holmes or something in San Diego. He told me. I met Ryan and we talked about comedy. So Ryan Hill of Don Carlos Eat a Burrito is amazing. Any burrito... There's something about the California burrito that's just amazing.
Oh, I get it pretty much every time I go down there. I get that California burrito from Don Carlos.
I haven't, and the thing about, he must do it for you guys. Every time I would go down there, not only would he would not charge me, but he would give me like 7 burritos.
Yeah.
Like trust me, I wish I could eat. And his burritos are like,
they're a pound.
Babies.
They're giant. They're like maybe even more than a pound. They're huge.
Yeah, I think I would make a California burrito, but if he's asking me of any kind, what could I eat? feel like I have to put something kind of special. Maybe put tater tots instead of French fries or
Oh,
something crazy in there.
That's cool.
That might be good.
That's a good idea. Right
I love
there.
California burritos.
Dude, me too. They're my go-to every time I go.
Are you a green or a red sauce?
I'm a red sauce guy.
Me. I used to. I was.
Simpatico.
Coming from the East Coast, I didn't even know what tacos really were.
Green sauce kind of throws it for me sometimes. Like
Really?
it has to be really good green sauce and more like jalapeno green sauce than like a salsa verde. I don't like cilantro and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
I'm not a cilantro guy.
Does it taste like soap for you?
No, it just tastes like garbage to me.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
And I've heard some people think it tastes like soap.
Yeah.
It
Some
doesn't-
people have a genetic thing, I've heard, but it just tastes bad to me.
Okay. I don't like it or hate it. I guess
Yeah. So you
good.
put
Now-
tater tots in there.
Yeah, tater tot. What else could I
Would
put?
you put
that's
any
weird in there?
Well, nacho cheese or something like that?
Ooh, you know what? As much of a fat guy as I can be, I like regular cheese, man. I used to love Taco Bell, but I can't have any.
Hey, that's America's #1 Mexican restaurant. Can
Is
you
it
believe
really?
they voted? America voted for that.
Oh, that's bad news for us.
#1 Mexican restaurant, Taco Bell.
I mean, that's what I used to think tacos were until I moved here. I mean, you said you're from Kansas,
Oh yeah,
so I mean that's pretty much what
I thought that Tex-Mex. I thought that like queso was like a normal like Mexican dish, like just the bowl of cheese. That's a very Tex-Mex thing.
that actually. Now that we mention it, I had never. I went to Austin with Joey, and we don't have Tex-Mex in Boston really.
Right.
Have you ever been to Chewy's in Texas?
I don't think so. What part of Texas? You said Austin?
This was in Austin, but I think they're all over the state.
Okay.
And I had never had queso before. So if in a California burrito, a little bit of queso with like the meat and it's a little spicy, that I think you have to put that in there.
Yeah.
Oh God, Ryan, you have to make a queso now.
Ooh, got to make that queso. This is another restaurant question, actually, that'll go along with this. This is from @UFC Trump on Twitter. How has your restaurant/takeout game changed since Joey Diaz came into your life? I'm sorry, but him getting angry about your poor establishment choices make me laugh so hard.
Well, I have to. I do think about stuff now. I'm like, God, if Joey hears about this, because he'll make fun of me. Like I used to go on Yelp a lot just to see, like, if I'm going somewhere, I'd be like, oh yeah, let's go on Yelp and see what's around.
Yeah.
One time I took acid with Joey.
How many times have you taken drugs since like joining the church?
Thousands.
Okay.
like no,
And you used to not do it at all.
not at
So
all.
it used to be, it's so funny just like to look at it from like that outside perspective, to be like, used to be like very like kind of reserved and conservative, and like, yeah, like through comedy, it sounds like you really have broken out of your shell big time.
Oh yeah, I mean, and like sometimes I still, because people like will get angry with me sometimes, like you don't take enough bong hits. I'm like, first of all, you don't understand like the level of weed that Joey has, and I'm taking them, and then I have to do work.
And
so
I'm
it's
such a young grasshopper in this.
compared to Joey.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that I took acid and I called a Lyft because I couldn't drive home, and my Lyft driver she wasn't bad, but she just wasn't. She was like, oh, I hate when people don't give me tips, and I have rent to pay, so I hope I have a good night. And I had pre-ordered something to go, and I had her drive me to the place, and she just came in. She's like, "What are you buying me?" And I'm on acid, kind of freaking out. So I was like, I don't know. You want a bagel? So my Lyft
driver bagel?
my Lyft driver like held me hostage for a bagel at one point. So that was probably the weirdest ones. But I mean,
Now, that might be one of the most Jewish stories I've ever heard. I got held up by my Lyft driver to buy her a bagel.
I didn't know what to say. I wanted to say like I'm not buying you anything. What do you mean? I'm just gonna run in here, pick up my food, and leave.
Yeah.
But I couldn't say shit. And then obviously like I'm kind of like in the middle of like gaining and losing right now. But taking
You're
all
like
those
doing
edibles.
Jiu-jitsu right now or something?
I'm not doing jujitsu. I'm doing circuit training at a jujitsu place.
Okay,
I'm trying
cool.
to do that. But
You said
the-
taking that many edibles.
though, yeah, that many edibles. Like I've mixed some weird shit. Like I've taken like 2 or 3 pudding cups and I've like kicked cereal and just mixed the pudding with cereal. Like you eat some,
Whoa.
and especially late at night. because sometimes when we've kind of slowed it down with the edibles a little bit. Like I would take like 2,000 milligrams on a regular basis.
Oh my goodness.
And sometimes I would just pass out at the studio until like I'd wake up at like 2 a.m. and like, and then you like there's nothing really great to get on the way home other than Jack in the Box and Taco Bell. So you eat some weird shit, but that's how it's changed.
Dude, that's wild. This is from @MattyTodd31 on Instagram. What did it feel like the first time you realized that you wrote a good bit?
It was the first time I had like a really good set, even at the open mic, and it didn't record. I was pissed. Like the first time, like, because open mics can be a little bit tough because comics have like they just want to get up, and B, they've heard a lot of all the
There's
jokes.
a lot of jadedness going on and self-absorption. Like I'm just focused on my set. Like So if you start getting them going at an open mic, you're like, oh, I got something here.
And I was probably like a month or two in, and it was about another comic who was there, just something that we did together, and I realized on stage that them laughing like that was making me smile, and I felt like I shouldn't react to it like that. But now looking back, I'm like, oh well, that actually, when comics laugh, like when you go see Bert Kreischer and he's laughing at his own, it helps you laugh, it helps the audience laugh a little bit. But for me, it was one of the best feelings ever, and I was like literally just sitting there on stage smiling. I'm like, oh, I got it. Like this was, and then I looked down and of course I wasn't recording it.
You're like, no.
And I tried to record it in my car and it wasn't the same. Like I tried to recapture it.
You tried to do it into your phone the same way.
Yeah, and it didn't. Of course, it didn't work. But it's a great feeling. But it's also like it used to be a better feeling because now like I realize even if you have one good set, there's so much to add to it.
The chase becomes so much longer now. Like your taste becomes more and more insatiable.
Right, like
you know what I mean?
What is it called, chasing the dragon or something? Yeah.
I mean, it really is like once you have a killer set, you're on to the next one. You're like, I gotta feel that again.
Right, and especially even like for me, like I was very lucky and I hosted for Jerry Rocha at the New Brea Improv.
Yeah, and I love Jerry.
He's great, and I felt like I had a good set, but then Eddie Pence featured and Jerry headlined. And they've both been doing it for 20 years.
Well, yeah.
And the level of laughter that they were getting from the same crowd, I was like, oh, even though I felt like I had a good set, I'm like, there's a lot of work to be done.
A lot of room to grow, yeah.
Yeah, just to get to get people like roaring with laughter. So that will be pretty cool when that happens.
Yeah, that's exciting. This is from @TrueImagination00. What's the biggest difference between the Lee that first left Boston to the Lee that you are now?
Oh, it's crazy.
The biggest difference.
I would say the shyness level, like just talking to people who I haven't really met.
Being able to go, just be a little bit more outgoing and.
Yeah. I was always, and I still, if I have a choice, I'll be like, oh, I'll just go home and be by myself, or I don't really like being in huge crowds. But now I feel like I can go up, and especially being single now, like going up and talking to a girl at a bar, I just didn't do it in college. And I like it kind of freaked me out. And now being surrounded by all these funny people and being put in situations like doing acid and all that stuff where it's so out of my comfort zone. I'm like, oh, just talking to someone at a bar is not going to be that crazy.
Very low stakes at this point. You're like,
So that's I
think like, I've been to outer space. I can go up to a girl at a bar. That's not a big deal.
That was great. Yeah, that's that is kind of crazy to have something. I mean, to have something go kind of viral in a way.
Yeah,
was kind of weird.
Which that's some of the questions that are on here are referring to that. Somebody asked, I think, where in the universe did you travel to when Joey tried to kill you with edibles? And that's from @the Logan Hazlitt on Instagram.
That was intense. That was, and I switched the cameras.
How many milligrams was it that Joey had to?
That might have been acid, to be honest.
Or acid.
The most milligrams I've ever done is 3,000.
Yeah,
which is a lot. Like people look at me like I'm crazy when I tell them that. but I honestly feel like there's something in your body that kind of switches off when you take that much. It's like you're poisoning yourself. That night was just, I went in and out. I didn't pass out or anything, but I was just feeling it. Like one of the first times Joey got me high, I watched the movie Friday, and I was so high because I used to love that movie.
Yeah.
But I could see the acting, and it kind of got bad. Like, my eyes were vibrating. I was so high. Like, yeah, things just kind of slowed down. And that night was like, that was intense. But and the weird thing about it is it's fun. So like, it's hard to complain about it because you're having a good time. But it's just like, it's a little bit more. Like, whenever I hear people saying like, "Oh, I took 10 milligrams and I was high for 2 days," I'm like, it just doesn't make sense to me.
You're like, interesting.
I wish I could be.
You're like an acid snark now. You're like, oh, very, very well. I've taken 2,000 milligrams at this point.
Mushrooms, like, the only thing is I haven't done are like heroin and cocaine and ecstasy. I feel like that's it.
At Young Pete, do you have a best Ralphie May memory?
Probably taking acid with him. And I don't even know. He might have been on acid. I don't know if you saw it, but he had a little yellow bracelet on that his kid had made him. And he was one of those people, like how you were asking, like, if they're nice when you meet them. He was very warm, and he was one of the nicest people. And it actually did help. He was like, focus on the yellow, it'll calm me down. And he could tell when I was getting a little too high, and he like put his hand on me, and it would calm me down. But then at the end of the episode, he wiggled it and kind of didn't throw it, but like made the bracelet go at me. And he's like, "It's a snake," and I jumped, and because it to me on acid, it kind of looked like a snake.
Yeah,
and it was probably one of the hardest. We've like, all three of us were just dying laughing. So that, I would have to say, that's probably the best of Ralphie. Like, that's something I'll never forget.
That's awesome. How? Let's see. At Nick_Arena777 on Instagram, the best advice someone has given you since you started stand up.
That's tough. I've gotten, because when you think about advice, you think about someone sitting you down and like, do this, do that. People kind of let me do my own thing. I've just kind of, I think the best advice is just be yourself. Don't really try to, and I don't even know if anyone's given it to me like specifically, but it's, there's nothing against one-liners.
Don't try to be a comic that you're not.
Yeah, and that's, don't try to, like, I couldn't pull off half or anything Joey says on stage. It wouldn't look right. But it's, just be yourself, and that's kind of what I've learned is, like, sometimes when I write stuff and I think it's gonna be great, it doesn't really work out. But stuff that just happened and is something that I really have an experience with. That's the stuff that makes people laugh. Like the jokes that you sit down and like, oh, this is funny, and then
right.
Those usually don't work for me.
You know what? I was wondering if he was going to call in today, and the one and only Joey Diaz is calling into the podcast right now.
Oh my goodness.
Uncle Joey, is this you?
What's up, buddy? What's up, Jeremiah? Joey, sounds like you're in outer. I was in outer space for a second, Jeremiah. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah, where are you calling in from, Joey?
What's with the questions, Jeremiah? I'm doing some stuff. I'm making some moves.
Did you have any advice for Lee? Because it seems like you kind of like started to groom him and help him, push him into comedy. Did you have anything that you wanted to say to him or any young comics that are watching the show?
Yeah, stop eating hummus. I saw the fly in Jeremiah's apartment. You gotta stop with the fucking flies. But you just gotta keep writing and keep going. There's no nights off. There's no breaks. We're in this 24/7, 365.
I love that.
Yeah, you just gotta keep going, keep pushing. You gotta take some edibles. You gotta go on stage high. You just gotta do it.
Just gotta go for it.
Like Nike said, cocksucker, just do it.
That's great advice. Oh, whoa! One of his brothers? I didn't know that Joey had a brother. You have a brother that's trying to call in on the other line, Joey? I think he's gonna try to talk to you. To see if we can give Lee some comedy advice as well.
There's a lot of stuff you don't know about me, cocksucker.
Hello?
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, this is Johnny Diaz.
Hi, Johnny. I haven't met you before.
Yeah, I'm surprised Joey hasn't talked about me.
Joey's a little bit of a private person,
I
I
have
guess.
a couple different slogans, you know. He's got the cocksucker thing, I've got the dick sucker. You know, we're on different paths, but, you know, kind of similar but different.
Yeah, so he has Momo. What do you have?
I have FOMO, fear of missing out. Yeah, that's me. You know, pretty similar to Joey in a lot of ways, but,
How do you feel about hummus, Johnny?
I love it.
See, I knew it.
What I would say, slather it on as much as you can. Bring on the flies, Lee. That's what I say. King of the flies, Lee Syatt.
And how do you feel about ranch?
Ranch? Ranch or go fuck yourself. That's what I think.
See, this is why I think this is why Joey hasn't really introduced you.
Yeah, well, pretty opposing if you couldn't tell. I'm here with Lord of the Flies, Lee Syatt. I love this guy. Keep slathering on the hummus, my Jewish friend.
I thank you very much. I appreciate the support. Now, how do you feel about drugs, Johnny? Do you smoke a lot of weed and do a lot of?
No, I'm a straight edge. Johnny Diaz is a straight edge guy. I'm actually becoming a pastor very soon.
I was gonna say, what kind of like a Catholic or like what?
Nope. Even more Mennonite. I'm gonna be a Mennonite pastor. You know.
How do they feel about you saying dick sucker?
Hey man, it's a sin that I've been working on. I'm trying to cleanse it out of myself, but you know, being around Joey all these years, you know, hasn't been quite good or conducive for my relationship with the Lord.
Oh, well, I'm glad you're on the straight and narrow now, Johnny.
Also, I think you should quit comedy.
John,
You're literally just giving him the exact opposite advice, Johnny, from what Joey has. Is Joey still on the line?
See, this is why I don't tell anyone I have a brother. He's a momo.
Oh, I'm an embarrassment to you or something?
You're an embarrassment to everybody. You're an embarrassment to Cuba. You're an embarrassment to Jersey.
You get Cuba's name out of your mouth right now.
You know what? You probably don't even eat black beans and rice. You don't. You probably are vegan, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. What's the problem?
Vegans. There's no Cuban vegans, cocksucker. We eat meat, and more meat.
And I weigh 130 pounds. Is there a problem with that?
Well, I'm glad you're healthy now, but yeah, you should eat some fucking no more tofu. There's only gay people eat tofu.
Tofu or go fuck yourself, motherfucker.
Man, very different. We got to let the Diaz brothers go.
I'm so happy we reunited them. It doesn't sound like they get along.
I don't think that they get along very well at all. It's very, very strange. Let's do one more question and we'll get into the final segment.
Got it.
Speaking of this pastor, this is an interesting question of Johnny the Pastor Diaz. Not to be confused with the UFC Diaz brothers.
Right.
Very different Diaz brothers.
Extremely
different. At Nitram_P17 on Instagram. Lee, out of all those psychedelic adventures you had, did any of them result in a spiritual experience for you? Did you have any encounter with anything that you felt like was an energy or something that you felt like you were talking to something that wasn't there or anything like that?
No, I didn't like. I don't really feel like I talked to God or anything, but there's something about acid and mushrooms that just make you feel happy, and like you start like every time I do it, like I'll text like my high school best friend. I'll be like, "Hey, I miss you, buddy. I hope you're doing well." So yeah, all that like acid and mushroom and stuff, it makes me more open, I think. But no, I didn't really talk to God or anything.
You didn't talk to God, no.
Is this God on the phone right now?
Hello.
Oh my God, this is I feel so special.
Oh my me, it's me.
Did Joey slip me an edible before I came? I think
maybe.
So how do you feel about all these drugs I'm taking, God?
Well, that's your path, I guess. We'll see where you end up at the end. You seem like a good dude, so I'll probably see you in heaven soon.
Oh, let's hope
Not
so.
soon. I'm not predicting like anything bad happening or anything like that. I mean, like more of like an eventually.
God, are you telling me something? Do you know when I'm gonna die, God? It sounds like it's imminent.
Whoops! I didn't mean to leak that information. No, it's gonna be a long, long way away.
Let's hope it's not too long. I don't think I want to live past like 75. I feel like that's a good time.
Okay, we can work that out.
All right.
Did you just barter with God when you're gonna die, Lee?
I would love to do that. I would love to be like, yeah, 69, 72.
How about 75?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I could deal
You
with
don't
that.
sound so low that I can come down a little bit if you're not really thrilled about it.
Yeah, let's check in like 20, 30 years and see how I'm doing with it. But yeah, that should be fine. It's nice that you took the time out to talk to me, God. I would have imagined you're pretty busy.
Yeah, I'm pretty busy, but you're a good dude, so I was like, all right, I can carve out a little time for my boy Lee.
I kind of thought that maybe after you created the world that you kind of just took a back seat and you've been chilling for a couple thousand years.
Nah,
No, you're still pretty busy. You got to get a lot of shit to do.
I'm busy on the reg, yo.
So, God, you got to tell us.
I
Like,
can't believe we have God on the line. First of all, so the fact
this is a
that
podcast exclusive.
yeah, exactly. I guess we'll put him in the parentheticals as Lee Syatt and God as guests.
I think God has to be the first guest.
He gets first billing. I
Yeah,
think.
I'll definitely God.
Yeah, you'll take back seat.
I'm just interested to know if Jews are the right, or if it's Christians. Like, am I on the right path being Jewish?
Oh, boy. Really cornering me on
Those
this
are deep questions. If that's too much, if you can't reveal that,
Well, on the Church of What's Happening Now, a lot of people refer to you as the Christ Killer.
that's true. I apologize for anything I've done to your son.
All right, then we're good, homie.
I think he just want to acknowledge that's what happened.
That was probably one of the weirdest thing. Like, Joey got me high once for Christmas. I was at his house and he had CNN on, like the story of Jesus.
Yeah.
He got me fucked up. And then they had, like, on CNN, they had the Christ, like, them pushing the crown of thorns onto Jesus' head, and I was fucked up, and I had to leave.
Was it a clip from Passion of the Christ? Or
No,
something?
I don't think so. It wasn't. I've seen parts of Passion of the Christ. It was like some like reenactment, obviously on CNN, like Christmas Day. It was terrifying. I had to leave.
Glory to the newborn. You're like, what am I watching right
And
now?
it wasn't. It was more like the Romans, and that's the one thing about being called the Christ killer is like,
You're like, technically,
it wasn't the Jews at all.
excuse me, a slight correction, if I may,
I hate to be a stickler.
but I think Pontius Pilate had something to do with this.
Jews always get the blame.
I mean, why? I'm just here right now. Yes, we were disciples of him, but like, yeah, there was a Judas, but if you are all of us Judases now?
So violent.
I mean, is Judas really shortening just Jew? Is that what that is?
I don't like all this anti-Semitism.
I don't like it either. It's very, very frustrating. Blame the Romans, why don't you?
No, the Romans never get any blame.
I know nobody even talks about the Romans, but you know what? Nobody talks about Roman food, the Roman people. So maybe it's one of those things. The strong survive.
Yeah, there's no Roman delis.
There's no. It's so true. Why aren't there any Roman delis out here?
They don't make a good bagel.
They don't make a good bagel, and their shoe game is all off point. Their sandals. Nobody wants to see those open toes in a deli. Are you kidding me?
No good deals on any diamonds.
No
Or
good deals on diamonds. They're skyrocketing. They're out of control.
you're lucky you have the Jews and not the Romans. Imagine if you were stuck with Romans.
Ugh. That's not a world I would want to live in.
No.
Let's get into this final segment, Sax Talk.
Let's do it.
Sax Talk.
I like it. So is that the sax that you started with in 3rd grade?
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah, it really is.
That is wild.
Yeah, isn't it wild? I mean, it's like
At
at
least
this
you
point,
take care of it. Yeah.
I do. It's like it's got some dents and stuff, but it's also like for how long I've had it. This is like one of the oldest things that I own.
You own things older than that?
I guess not. Well, no. I have one thing that's older than this, and it's my stuffed animal, like a little bear. I literally have had that since I was born.
You're gonna be a good father. You take care of things.
I try to take care of things. So Lee is going to share a story of a sexual encounter, and I'm going to play some sweet, sweet sax underneath. And whenever you're ready, I'll start following you along with this sexy saxophone.
Okay, so since we talked about me not really hitting on girls at bars, the first show I did at the Comedy Store was for Joey's birthday. And I was a little high. I got down there, and I did my set, and went great. And I went outside, and I started talking to this girl. It never really happened before. I was really excited. I was nervous. And some people were around. We only talked for a few minutes. But we exchanged Instagram accounts, which is very 2018. but she ended up coming over a week or so later, and we were making out, and things progressed. But things took a bad turn, because as we were hooking up, she took a hold of my penis. And she asked me probably the worst question I ever got asked during sex. She looked at me straight in the face, and she said, "Are you on the spectrum?" And that was pretty much the end of it. We didn't end up having sex. She slept over with her jeans on. It was a terrible night. But that's probably my craziest sexual experience. Yeah, that was a little bit much.
Dude, she grabbed your penis and said, "Are you on the spectrum?"
Because I apparently I kept, if she wasn't into it, I kept going like this. Like I'd be like, because I didn't want to get like, oh, you're doing something I don't want to do. Even though she came over to my house and the second time we met, and she asked me if I was on the spectrum, and I was like, no, I'm not. She's like, oh, okay, you just seemed a little bit off. I was like, why would you still be here if I would? But I guess that makes her a good person, that she would continue hooking up with me.
Or maybe, well, here's the thing. Or she had a fetish, and you said no, and she was like, wah, wah, gotta move on to the next boy on the spectrum.
I kind of hope so. That wouldn't be nice. Like you definitely know him, Josh Meyerowitz.
Oh yeah,
I've done Kate Quigley's podcast with him, and I've heard his sexual experiences. So if she was into it, I should set him up with her.
Just send her to Meyerowitz, and it'll be the best present that you could ever give him.
I feel like that should happen on your podcast.
I know, I connect people.
No, like them actually like hook up on your couch, like while you're playing the sax.
While I'm playing the sax, but I'm only on the screen. I'm like, why am I still having to watch this?
Because it's a PG-13 podcast.
It's a PG-13 podcast. Dude, thanks so much for doing the show, man.
Thank you for having me. I've seen all the clips that you put online, and I'm really excited to do it.
Yeah, we'll definitely get some fun clips out of the show. Do you want to plug anything before you leave?
No, just if you want to follow me on any social media, it's Lee Syatt, LeeSyatt.
All right. Thanks so much for doing the show, buddy.
Thank you.